I'm Brian Isbell. I'm head of department of Chinese medicine and complementary therapies, and being a head of department, obviously there's quite a bit of administration management, but I do manage to escape occasionally, and the escaping occasion is to do teaching, which I love doing. And my other love is working in the clinic that we have here, working in the complementary medicine clinic. So I managed to get down there and practice. So those are very nourishing experiences, make up for all the time that's spent in meetings.
Okay, that's pretty cool. I like the balance that you get from that. It's quite something I'm sure that a lot of people here would love to achieve. Would you say there's a way that you've achieved that, or have you consciously tried to make a balance?
Well, I suppose I've always wanted to make sure that I'm in management, but it's really important to know what you're managing. And for me, the best way of knowing what you're managing is actually have the similar sort of experiences as your staff are, which is working with students in a variety of different environments, working in, for example, in the polyclinic or in tutorials or lectures. So it's a bit like by doing, you really experience, and then got a much better understanding then about what you're managing and what you're facilitating.
So I'm curious how you got into complementary therapies.
It's a long journey. Started off. My first degree is in chemistry, so I started from quite a reductionist side of the spectrum. So it was in chemistry, and then I did a PhD in biophysics at the Medical Research Council. And at the end of that time, I wasn't too sure about whether it was teaching or research I wanted to go into, so I went overseas for 4 years to West Africa and had a job there teaching at a medical school, but obviously teaching and research, so the research is very applied. So I was involved in setting up a chemical pathology section in the hospital, and also did some research in pharmacology, looking at natural medicines. And that's obviously, as you probably gather, where it began to happen. So I was holding this polarity of sort of biomedicine and complementary medicine, even from that position.
And you see yourself, and then you trained as an osteopath after that?
That's right. Well, I came back to the UK, worked at Paddington College, which was part of Polytechnic of Central London. I was the campus coordinator, very grand title.
That sounds wonderful.
Campus coordinator. And ran a biomedical sciences section, and a lot of my colleagues in the school now, it's like coming home, because a lot of my colleagues, Jeff Stubbs, Carol Martin Parry, Jenny Mackenzie, were all colleagues over at Paddington. So that was my daytime job. For a period of time I was retraining to be an osteopath, because I wasn't too sure what sort of future I'd have when I transferred into the Polytechnic of Central London. So it's a bit like sort of having a reserve card, and it was fascinating, because then I really got drawn from osteopathy into complementary medicine. But I still teach the sciences, love the sciences, because sciences have so much to offer. But I also love complementary medicine when you realise the complexity of working with patients. It's more than just what happens in a test tube. There's so much learning of working with patients.
On that, do your students have a basic level of science in terms of the way, would we learn the same kinds of science in our early years, in our first year?
There is a remarkable similarity at level 4. The plan is to actually have the same anatomy and physiology module, but the students do tend to focus more on pathology as it is for patients, so it goes through to pathophysiology and into differential diagnosis. And it is a theme now that the students have to pass. It's compulsory that they pass each of the modules of the health sciences theme. Right,
and I gather that the foundation courses are merging.
They have already merged, yes, the students are taught together. There's only one module which is different, and the module gives them a flavour of whether it be, sort of complementary medicine, or in the case of biosciences.
And also, funny thing I heard the other day, level 4 there's going to be some complementary medicine modules available to level 4s. Is that right?
That's right. Well, it's like any other module. Well, no, there's any module within the school. Where you've got electives, we offer a number of modules. We offer them obviously within the school and to study abroad students. So because we have such a wide range of modules available, and of course for interest and personal development.
Indeed, yeah.
So
but I mean, that's not something. As I gather, that's not something that was available a couple of years ago.
No, that's
but
right.
Now it's
yes, because we're obviously
because we're the same school. I see. Yeah, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, so it's great to have that addition as much in our own courses. Though they're all prescribed because professional bodies dictate really what's required. There's
much like IBMS with biomedical science.
You've got it. Yeah, very similar. In fact, our herbal medicine degree has just been recognised for regulation with the HPC.
You're quite well voiced, shall we say, in the scientific community. You have debates with other universities, with medical schools.
That's right. The Student Society certainly over the past years has been very active in trying to form links with local medical schools, because the debates there are around patient care and complementary medicine, biomedicine, are ones that are great to share with those in medical schools. So obviously UCL isn't far away. King's, there's a number of sort of groups that work together to try and organise shared events. So much dependent upon having an activist in your student group. We've been very fortunate in it's called the Integrated Health Society. It's really done a lot in bringing students together, not only of course within the school, but also across the school with medical students from other institutions.
Yeah, okay. And what kind of topics do you debate about? What do your students debate?
Well, they're looking at sort of healthcare, health issues. So in a broader sense, sort of looking at, government approaches, sort of topical issues around where complementary medicine is and what's happening and developing with it. Staff from the school do go out to medical schools, and we go annually to medical schools, and it's fascinating talking to the students, because you realise that there's things that we talk about a great deal about patient care that aren't strong focuses in their curriculum. So it's really good to sort of share ideas around this. You realise that there's not surprisingly a different focus in the different courses.
What would you say there's an area now? I mean, I know that you trained in osteopathy. Osteopathy. I don't know.
Yeah, that's right. Osteopathy.
Yeah, as an osteopath, and you've taught all of these wide ranges. Is there an area that you're particularly interested in, and more importantly, is there an area that you think that's going to go far, that's going to go further, or that it can be developed and can be made to be used in a wider sense?
Fascinating question, because I mean, as much as my origins are in sort of chemistry, biophysics, and I've moved into osteopathy, but I've moved along the spectrum of complementary medicine, from osteopathy to naturopathy to craniosacral, which is a very light touch intervention. I'm fascinated with the breadth of spectrum that there is in complementary medicine, when you realise that very often particular therapies seem to match patients, that somehow there's not all complementary medicines are good for a particular patient or patient groups, and that's great about the diversity. So I'm interested in about almost the preservation of the diversity. I mean, this is one of the things I realised, that in a university it isn't so easy to have that diversity, because there are some models of complementary medicine which don't sit comfortably, for example, in a very scientific environment.
Is there a message that you'd send to the students of the School of Life Sciences about particularly what this is about, and what we can all learn from kind of complementary therapies and medicines and stuff?
Well, for me, the word speaks. It is a complementary medicine. So there is a lot to be learned from complementary medicine, as much as there obviously is for biomedicine, and the two, for me, sit side by side, and an openness to exchange ideas across those two. So it's a bit like keep an open mind and keep pursuing, because there is so much that we have to learn.
Cool. I can't think if there's anything else.
Well, there's always the advert about the polyclinic, isn't
there?
There
is, but the thing is, we spoke about the polyclinic at the beginning. I was like, okay. Yeah, we can talk about the polyclinic.
Well, it was really just to mention that, remember, we can have an even more caring environment in the School of Life Sciences, because we do have a polyclinic, and that polyclinic is open to students to
use. Remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that. Cool, yeah. Okay. Brian, thank you very much.
Thanks.